Hi, everybody, and welcome back. Our next guest is Taryn Fritzsching, a senior at Troy Athens High School, who had a chance to visit with the assistant AD for Detroit Public Schools, Anika McEvans. Taryn, welcome back to the show, as always.
Thank you, Johnny.
So you had a chance to talk to Anika, who I have not had the privilege to meet just yet. But what was your biggest takeaway as far as, what you learned from her, and then, what it was that made you want to talk with her after her recent award recipient?
Anika is an absolute star, and she's been doing these athletics for multiple school districts. She's been with Southfield. She's now with the Detroit school, with Detroit schools, and she's been doing it for over 30 years. And it's just so amazing to see what she's been able to do. And for her to now finally win the MHSAA Women in Sports Leadership Award, that's incredible. She's currently trying to grow competitive cheer in the Detroit schools. She says that she has been able to start it with Cass, King, and Renaissance, and she's also trying to grow what she calls her country club sports, which is golf and tennis and whatnot. And she just wants to really raise the next generation of leaders so that somebody can eventually come in and continue what she's been accomplishing, not only in Detroit, but everywhere that she's been.
Yeah. I think that's fabulous. That's, I can't speak on it directly because, I'm not, as I was coming up, I wasn't a woman trying to break through, a lot male dominated industries like to work in sports, but obviously I've worked with so many, with younger women that are trying to, make a place for themselves, make a name for themselves, earn that respect, prove, your value in certain male dominated fields. How cool is it for you, I guess, because I know you've talked to a lot of, whether it be journalists or executives or sports executives or whatever, those in academia. How much inspiration, I guess, do you draw as somebody, you're a senior in high school now, getting ready to make a very important college decision coming up. But, to have an opportunity to hear some of these stories from people like, Anika McEvans, for your own path to pursue a career working in sports.
It's just so cool to see the different opportunities there are, because obviously for me, I want to be a reporter, but in sports overall, there's just so many different ways and pathways that you can go and places where you can find where you want to be in. And so being able to talk to really anybody just about how they've been able to make their mark and what they're passionate about, it just makes me all the more passionate about finding what I want to do and finding myself being that reporter. And the coolest part about it is through my passion, I can share the stories of other people's passions, and it all falls under the overlying topic of just sports as a whole.
That's it. You're all over it. All right, here is sportscasters Taryn Fritzsching with Anika McEvans, the newest recipient of the MHSAA Award for Women in Sports Leadership.
Today, I'm here with Anika McEvans, who was selected for the MHSAA Women in Sports Leadership Award. Anika, we are so excited to have you here today. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me, Taryn.
So I wanted to start off because I know that you were a student athlete when you were in high school. So how did your experience being a student athlete shape the way that you are leading today?
So I was a 3-sport athlete. I played basketball, volleyball, and softball. And starting as an athlete, I began to see just some of the inequities that exist, both being a female athlete and how, even though our girls basketball team was much better than our boys team, they still, got prime gym time, prime billing, better support. And then even in between my own sports, between basketball, volleyball, and softball, seeing how, even though my softball team was, city champs 3 of my 4 years in high school, we didn't get the support that some of the other sports got. So starting very early, I've had a mission of just equitable athletics, and then transitioning as a parent of, 2 daughters and a son, wanted to continue that both as a mom, of course, seeing that my daughter and my son, had similar experiences. They both were basketball players. And then obviously now in my job now.
So speaking of your family, I want to also kind of go into you being a parent of athletes. How did that perspective kind of influence your goals when you were really making a step into your career?
I started off actually in professional sports. So when I first started my career in athletics, I thought I was going to be a sports agent and work on the professional sports side of things. I started working with the Detroit Pistons, where I worked for several years. And then when I became a mom, I realized that the professional sports arena wouldn't allow me to be the type of mom that I wanted to be. And so I began exploring, just other opportunities, other things that I could do. And that's when I started coaching and working, more in a school, which just lined up more with being an involved mom and being around my children. And it really worked out for us as they got older.
So speaking about all of the roles that you've held, you've been a coach, an athletic director, and a district administrator. Which role has taught you the most about leadership and why?
Wow. I don't know that I have one that's taught me more. I think they've all taught me different things. When I was a coach, I was very young. And so I was coaching, I was 20 years old with my first coaching job. So I was 20 years old coaching 18-year-old boys. So just learning, first of all, to separate myself as a professional, that, we're not peers. I'm an adult, you're the student, the athlete. So I definitely learned that bit of professionalism first and how to establish that early on. And then as I progressed into leadership roles, really just learned how to bring the best out in the people that I work with. Everybody has different strengths, different weaknesses, different skills that they bring to the table. I believe that great leaders are able to seek out those strengths in their team and maximize the opportunity for people to use their team. So I won't say that one taught me more than the other. I think every role I've had has taught me different things. And hopefully they've helped me become a great leader at this point in my career.
So speaking of some challenges with coaching, what challenges did you face when you were moving from coaching more so into the administration side?
So one of the biggest challenges, and honestly, I continue to face it now, I'm in a male-dominated industry. And so, even today, having done this almost 30 years, I'm very often the only woman in the room. And even more so, very often the only woman of color in the room. And so being a minority, sometimes you struggle with the balance of, defending and advocating for the position you're in, but then also recognizing everybody in the room as colleagues and vice versa, having them recognize you as a colleague. One of my favorite work stories was my very first meeting as an athletic director. The topic happened to be football. And I believe half the room assumed that I knew absolutely nothing about the sport of football, mainly obviously because I'm a woman. And so I think, I had to learn on the go, but I also had to, from the very first day, show them that I did know what I was talking about. And then also I had to acknowledge that there were some things that I didn't know, as intimately as they did. So balancing that need to show everybody that you belong in the room, but then also not constantly fighting for a place in the room.
Speaking of your overall success, what does winning the Women in Sports Leadership Award mean to you personally?
Yeah. So my athletic director in high school and mentor actually won this award in 1997. And she also was the last person from the city of Detroit to win this award. So it means everything to me to be recognized by my colleagues, by my peers for work that I do and have done for so long. An athletic director's job is often behind the scenes. Quite frankly, if we do our jobs well, no one should even look for us in the room. No one, everything should run seamlessly. Most of the time when they're looking for me, it's because there's a problem. So it was very humbling to be honored and recognized by my peers for work, again, that I've been doing for, 30 years now.
How do you motivate, because you've been around so many people in so many different school districts, but how do you motivate your coaches and staff to share your vision for inclusive athletics?
So 2 things with that. One, when I make hires, when I'm able to have openings and I make hires, I ask them about their coaching philosophy and their approach, because obviously it's easier to hire someone that has your same philosophy of inclusion than it is to, force someone or encourage someone to switch over if they don't believe in that. And then secondly, I believe that all people that do this work genuinely are here for students. We don't get paid enough money to be in it, quite frankly, for very much else. And so I think starting from that standpoint, I believe if we continue to put students first, and I have to continue to remind them all students, most of the time we're successful in, getting people to share that vision or at least get closer to that shared vision.
So speaking of helping all the students, you've obviously helped expand sports opportunities to thousands of students. So what impact have you seen athletics have on the younger generation?
Well, I'm very blessed and very fortunate to do work that I absolutely love and I absolutely 100% believe in. It amazes me that many of the young people that I coached or worked with as an athletic director are now moms and dads themselves. They're now coaches themselves. They're now officials. But overall, they're just really great people, in their community. And number one, the fact that they do work, many of them in the arena of sports, clearly says that it had an impact on their life. But then also, I just know they're great people. They're great leaders. They are compassionate for their fellow, community. And many of them wanted to come back to the communities that helped them. So I know that sports have a tremendous impact on young people. And then obviously I have 3, student athletes myself, who I know are able to go out into the world and do the things that they do through many of the lessons they learned in sports.
What advice would you give to young women hoping to pursue a leadership role in sports?
Number one, know that you deserve to be there, but also know that you have to be not just prepared, but overly prepared, because we are still in a society where women have to prove themselves. And sometimes you only get one shot at it. So you have to, first of all, believe in yourself and know that you deserve to be in the space. But you do have to make sure that you're not just prepared, but overly prepared, because you do have to prove to everybody else that you deserve to be in the room. That's unfortunate, but that's the reality of this space. The other bit of advice that I would give any person, male or female, is have fun. Do work that you love to do, and when you're blessed to find a space that you love being in, wrap your arms around it and hold on to it as long as you can.
What goals do you still hope to accomplish in the Detroit Public Schools athletics?
Yeah. So one of the sports that we're growing right now is competitive cheer, which ironically, I was not a cheerleader. I actually swore off cheerleading as a young person. But I see how tremendous the sport can be for young women, and the young women, how much time and commitment, they give to their sport. So right now we have 3 competitive teams in the PSL at Cass, Renaissance, and King High School. And those are considered our big 3 schools because they're examination and application schools. My goal before I leave this space is to have at least 10 programs, expanding to what we call comprehensive or neighborhood schools, which are more traditional public schools. So I'm hoping to have 10 programs there. I also hope to expand some of our what we call country club sports, golf, tennis, things like that. Just because there's a lot of young people that aren't being touched by the traditional sports that are currently here. And the last thing is I'm hoping to raise the next generation of leaders so I can have somebody take my place.
And then not only talking about your goals, but what legacy do you just hope to leave behind in overall school sports?
Hopefully I'm living my legacy. And again, inclusive and equitable athletic opportunities is a big one for me. And hopefully I leave that space here that, I was always advocating for equity. Also to always put students first. As adults, I have to sometimes remind my staff and people that we work with that it's not our experience anymore, but we're facilitators of a young person's experience. And so, that would be the second part, I guess, of the legacy that I want to lead is making sure that I train mentors and leaders that are equipped to be facilitators of positive experiences for young people.
Well, thank you so much, Anika. We are so proud of you, and I'm so glad I was able to share your story.
No, thank you. I'm happy to do it. I'm glad you guys sought me out for the interview.
That was sportscasters Taryn Fritzsching from Troy Athens High School with Anika McEvans, really a worthy recipient of the MHSAA's Women in Sports Leadership Award, one of the driving forces behind her methods. Inclusion, you heard her talk about putting students first when it comes to athletic competition, which isn't always the case in every school district, as we know. But very good stuff, very thoughtful interview. I want to thank all our guests, obviously Anika McEvans. I want to thank Taryn Fritzsching. I want to thank Joanne Barnes, a longtime Detroit sports writer from the Free Press, who joined our other sportscaster, Lyric Sloan, earlier in the show. And also want to thank Brendan Mato, a freshman at Notre Dame, for his Olympic preview with all the ties to the great state of Michigan. Hope you learned something this week. Hope you took something away from it. And I hope you continue to enjoy the Olympic coverage. As always, we encourage you to tune in to Open Mic here on WJR. We come on every Wednesday night at 8 o'clock. I'm Johnny Kane, your host. And until next time, Godspeed.